The Wedding Favor, Part 11. Work is both more awkward than usual, yet not as awkward as Ella expected. Arthur does not speak one word to her. He doesn't even look at her. He keeps banging his tools around and cursing loudly whenever he drops a screw, but none of it is directed at Ella. It makes for a stressful 2 hours before the other mechanics start arriving. The others notice the bad atmosphere, but they stay out of it, much to Ella's relief. How is she supposed to explain what's going on if she has no idea herself? She's no closer to figuring things out by the time 3 p.m. comes rolling around. Partly because the closer it gets to 3 p.m., the more Damien takes over her mind. What if he doesn't come? She has no way to contact him. How's she going to get her car back if he's not here to drive her? She could walk there, but she really doesn't feel like it after a full day of work. She's in the middle of daydreaming about a guy coming in on a white motorcycle, offering her a ride to her car. She tells herself any resemblance to Damien is pure coincidence. When her phone chimes. Nobody texts her during work hours, only her mom. Ella swallows down the lump in her throat. She can't ignore her mom, no matter how much she wants to. I'm at the front of it. An unknown number has sent her a message. Is this a customer or a wrong number? Ella, who is this? Damien, he answers immediately, and Ella huffs at herself. She should have guessed he'd just message her. Ella, you could have pretended to ask for my number, stalker. Damien answers with a gif of a duck staring at the camera for a bit before quacking once. Ella stares at it as it runs through the quack 5 times. Is this supposed to mean something? How is she supposed to respond to that? Another duck gif? What if it's a secret mafia code for something? She's still bewildered when she clocks out and heads to the front. She waves at her colleagues, steadfastly ignoring the angry glare Arthur throws at her instead of a goodbye. Damien is leaning against his car, looking effortlessly nonchalant with his arms crossed when Ella exits the door. The moment he spots her, he pushes off the car with a big grin. He moves to come closer, but Ella rushes to meet him. The idea of kissing him in the middle of her job's parking lot makes her very uncomfortable. Damien waits for Ella to come closer before opening the passenger door with a small, ridiculous bow. It almost makes Ella giggle. She rolls her eyes at him instead and moves to pass him. He stops her with a light touch on her lower back. Hello to you too, love. He pointedly looks at her lips and raises an eyebrow. Ella almost shakes her head at his demand, but then she glances at the workshop. All of her colleagues are staring, even if they are pretending they're super busy. This is a great practice run, Elle. Damien's whisper is a caress at her temple, and Ella's eyes snap back to him. There he is, with the shortening of her short name again. It does things to her stomach she really doesn't want it to. She also hates that he is right. With a huff of irritation, she gives him a quick peck on the lips before hurrying into the car. She doesn't look up at him when he closes the door and waves at her colleagues. When Damien gets in the car himself, he doesn't say a word. He simply buries a hand in the hair, the nape of Ella's neck, and pulls her in for a quick, hard kiss. Ella's heart goes off on a tangent. Damien doesn't move away when he pulls back to look into Ella's eyes. He gives her a shit-eating grin. That's a better hello. Ella scoffs and pushes him to his side of the car. She wants to tell him how awkward it was, but something is stopping her. Words just cannot find the way to her mouth. She can still feel his fingertips pushing against her neck, even after he's already pulled away to start the car, and she brushes her hand over the tingling skin. The touch just ignites the skin more, until Ella has to say something to get out of her head. Did you have to be so rough about kissing me? Damien's head snaps towards her for a moment. He does a quick scan of her face, brow creasing with, is that worry? His face is back to the usual blank canvas when he turns to the road again. His shoulders are noticeably tenser than before. I didn't mean for it to be rough. Ella stares at him for a moment. With how closed off he is now, it's suddenly abundantly clear that he was more open and carefree with her before. He wasn't the charming guy he's with other people, but he also wasn't the distant guy Ella was imagining him to be. The fact that she said something to push him away like that by accident paralyzes her. It's starting to feel like she really is the problem. She stares out the window for the whole car ride, mind churning about everything and nothing at all. She notices Damien's occasional glances, but she's not going to say anything without prompting anymore. The silence weighs on the air until they get to the street where Ella's car is parked. Damien finally opens his mouth again. Are you okay? Of course I'm not okay. The words are out of her mouth before Ella can think about it. The biting tone is almost a perfect echo of what Arthur said earlier, and Ella flinches at herself. Sorry, I'm not. It's just been a day, all right? Damien doesn't look at her as he speaks softly and slowly. Did I hurt you? Ella turns to him immediately, putting a reassuring hand on his elbow. No, you didn't. I was just... Ella stops talking. She can't find the words. How do you explain that you liked the kiss very much, but that you feel bad about it? That it's actually a bit disturbing how you can still feel where he pulled you in and that you enjoy that fact. The idea chokes all the words out of her, and it leaves her motioning with her hands while the silence starts dragging on again. Did Arthur give you any trouble? Grateful for the topic change, Ella waves his words away. As an afterthought, she takes her hand off his elbow too. Not really. He was distant and upset, but he didn't bother me. Damien's eyebrows instantly raise at that. What? He didn't. He didn't say one word to me after his outburst when you left. Ella frowns to herself. She's still not sure what happened there. Ella never meant to string him along. She never saw him that way, and she thought she made that very clear. Why else would he keep asking after all of her out-there excuses? She thought he was enjoying the joke as much as she did. On that note, how did you know Arthur constantly asked me out? Damien shrugs. I saw the way he looked at you and figured he was not your type. How does he look at me? He looks at me normally, doesn't he? Damien doesn't dignify that with an answer. All Ella gets is a glance and a raised eyebrow. Ella scoffs at him. His eyebrow might be right. Ella probably just didn't notice if he looked at her funny. She didn't ever realize he was seriously into her either. How did you figure he was not my type? He actually laughs at Ella for that question. Ella glares at him, mentally thanking him for making her feel like more of a chump in the most sarcastic tone her brain can muster. At least the look makes him stop laughing at her. Are you kidding? If he was in any way attractive to you, you'd have asked him to be your date to the wedding. You have made it abundantly clear you would rather date a stranger with criminal ties than date him. That says a lot about your relationship with him. The irritation bubbling up in Ella disappears, and she stares at Damien. Asking Arthur to the wedding hadn't even registered as an option, to be honest. Now that Damien has brought it up, Ella can think of plenty of reasons why it would be a horrible idea. He'd be looked down on by her family, he'd get upset, and then the atmosphere in the shop would be horrid until Ella feels forced to quit to save her colleagues from his wrath. Everyone would think they were actually dating instead of faking it for her family. He would think they'd actually be dating. He would try to kiss her with his unbrushed teeth. She'd have felt forced to kiss him. The idea alone sends a shiver down Ella's spine, and Damien notices. You imagined it, didn't you? Yes. I much prefer the idea of kissing you. At least you smell nice. Ella slaps a hand across her mouth. Too late. The words are already out. Damien's sly smile at her comment makes butterflies fly through her stomach. His teeth are perfectly clean and kissable. His smile doesn't leave his face until he's finished parking his car behind her Shelby. The smile turns into a full-blown smirk as he puts a hand on the back of her seat and starts leaning in. Well, if you want more of that, I'm perfectly willing to oblige. Ella's treacherous mind wants to take him up on his offer for a second, but rationality prevails, even if her heart is beating distractingly hard in her throat. She fumbles for the car door and stumbles out. Nope, I'm fine. Talk to you later. Damien laughs at her. I'll text you for the fitting.